Hello and welcome to the March 5th, 2024 Village of Buchanan Board of Trustees meeting. Please, I'm going to do something different. Please stand for the pledge. But we are going to introduce you to our 6 new members of Buchanan Engine, and I would like them to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to ask up Buchanan Engine Chief Robert Outhouse to the podium. All right, thank you for coming this evening. I wanted to people to recognize and acknowledge our new members in the state and around the country. There's a lot of problems with our first responders and our services getting people to volunteer. It's a big commitment to people, and I felt that it was important to recognize these people and acknowledge their dedication to our village. So if you can also ask them to come up to the front of the room, and hopefully you have somebody from the department that can take a picture of...
I'm sure we got a photographer in the house.
I think I see one now, yes.
Mayor, thank you. For the last many years, we're promoting membership in the Buchanan Engine Company. Over the last 9 months, we've taken in 6 members. Tonight, I'd like to introduce to you those members who've reached all the qualifications to be probationary active firefighters. Now they start their intensive training to become active. So right now, I'd like to introduce Cleaver Vella. Cleaver, come on up. Mayor, where would you like them?
They can come stand here because I'd like them to face the camera so that people can see who they are.
Go down here and stand on the side.
That's right. You got it.
Oh, there too?
Okay.
Yep, right here. That's the one that's being used.
All right.
Okay.
But the audience is right here.
Okay. Kelly Ferry. I do want to recognize one person who is not with us tonight. That's Al Roush IV, and he is the son of Assistant Chief Al Roush III. Al's in the audience tonight. Next up is Brady Bear. Brady is the son of Deputy Chief Stu Bear. Joseph Ortiz. And Dan Hain. I just want to acknowledge, Mayor, that 3 of these individuals, Brady, Joe, and Al the fourth, were members of the Explorer Post who joined at 14 and moved up to become probationary active. So we're very proud of that program. It works. And as you can see tonight, that's 3 members. In a department our size, 6 members is a great deal. It's a great deal. So we thank you for the opportunity to introduce them. We continue to promote and recruit every day, 365 days a year. So thank you very much for acknowledging the new members.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving.
And if you could also turn around for the audience too, so they can see who you are.
Thank you.
And Chief, I just want to say one other thing. I know the department and you and Kiernan have been working on grants for the fire department, so the village very much appreciates you looking into that and working on that.
So we just filed the AFG grant. Deadline is next week. We filed for, which is soon to be replaced within the next few years, $225,000 worth of air packs. So
Wonderful.
hopefully we get that grant.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Bobby.
it. So first on our agenda, first we got to approve the minutes. I have I have minutes for December 19th, and I believe I had January 2nd here, too. Are there any corrections or comments on these meeting minutes? No?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. On a motion to approve the December 19th, 2023 and January 2nd, 2024 Village Board meeting, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the floor, agenda items only? Okay. So, under new business, I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing regarding special permit and site development plan and steep slopes disturbance for the AMS project. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I think, Mr. Weingarten, you wanted to do a presentation or review?
Well, it's totally up to you. We made a presentation at the informal session the last time, and this is the public hearing piece, so we're happy to do it. Your pleasure.
I'm okay with it. What about the rest of the board? Because we have new people in the audience here, too.
And we're fine to do it, so it's, again, it's totally up to you.
All right,
So
thank
If
you.
you'd like to, we'll...
Just one quick question.
Sure.
Before you get started,
Sure.
David, could you summarize,
Use the mic, Anthony.
can you summarize to us how we got to where we are with AMS since March of 2022? So everybody in the public knows how long we've been dealing with this?
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, David Smith, Principal with Planning and Development Advisors, Planning Consultant to the Village of Buchanan. Anthony, the summary that I'll provide will provide the public with an understanding of the process. I think Mr. Weingarten and his team will help, as part of their presentation, will help flesh out a lot of the details that the public will need to have in order to understand the balance of the project. But essentially, the applicant, AMS, came to the village in March or April of 2022 with a proposal to rezone a portion of the property that they own, approximately 6 acres. It would be a map amendment and a text amendment. And the applicant made a series of presentations throughout the spring going into the fall of 2022. And there were a number of issues that were discussed, access issues. There was a discussion about the potential to incorporate a potential retail piece as part of the overall planning. So there's a lot of back and forth that occurred as part of the process. The process that the village undertook is part of the State Environmental Quality Review Act. That's SEQR, that's the environmental review laws that municipalities are required to conduct their business on, and also with respect to the village code, which has statutory requirements for undertaking zoning and zoning amendments. So the application for the rezoning was submitted January 10th of 2023. As part of the process, this board needed to file a notice of intent to act as lead agency. And under SEQR, the lead agency is the body that coordinates the environmental review. So that notice was sent out along with an environmental assessment form and some additional documentation to a number of interested and involved agencies such as Westchester County, New York State Department of Transportation, New York State Department of Environmental Protection, and a number of others, neighboring municipalities as well. None of whom objected to the village board acting as lead agency for coordinating the environmental review. So in March of 2023, your board established yourself as lead agency. And as part of that process, you asked the applicant to prepare an environmental assessment form, which is a document that's approximately 18 pages or so that has a significant number of pieces of information that are requested about the proposed action and potential impacts. And you asked the applicant during the course of that time to supplement the environmental assessment form with a number of studies, including a very comprehensive traffic study. There was a study on the environment, meaning flora and fauna, the stormwater management impacts to steep slopes, civil engineering comments. There were opportunities for meetings with the fire department, so they had an opportunity to provide input on that process. And so the applicant submitted an environmental assessment form along with the supplemental studies, and your board reviewed that on several occasions and asked for additional information to help supplement the record. And in May of 2023, you had determined that there was sufficient information in enough detail so that the public could understand what the proposed action was. And so that was circulated to the other interested and involved agencies, was made available to the public, and the matter was referred to both the Village of Buchanan Planning Board and the Village of Buchanan Zoning Board, and provided them with specific opportunities to comment on the proposed action, which was the zoning. So at that point, the Village Board had scheduled a public hearing. That was in June of 2023, and that was on the zoning map and the zoning text amendments. And that matter was, or that public hearing was opened. It was kept open for, I believe, a couple of meetings where there was an opportunity for the public to provide comments. The Planning Board provided comments, the Zoning Board provided comments, Westchester County Planning and New York State DOT all provided comments for your consideration. The public hearing was closed on July 5th, 2023, although written comments were allowed until July 17th, 2023. And as part of that, the applicant provided written responses to the comments that were raised during that process for your consideration. In September 5th, the board needed to make, or the board was at a position where they needed to make a determination of significance. And under seeker, determination of significance means that the lead agency has reviewed the record, they've reviewed the information that was provided to it, and they made a determination whether there were any significant adverse impacts associated with the proposed action, or if there were impacts, had they been mitigated to the maximum extent practicable. And at the September 5th meeting, you adopted what's called a negative declaration, which means that for the environmental review purposes, you had concluded that the applicant had prepared sufficient studies and analysis, had identified those impacts associated with the proposed action, and any impacts had been mitigated to the maximum extent practicable. So that concluded the environmental review. The board then voted to amend the zoning map, the zoning code text amendments that were part of that proposed action. Following the September meeting in October of 2023, the applicant submitted a formal site plan application, and that is the subject of tonight's public hearing. And that application was submitted, it was reviewed, again, by your board, by your staff and consultants. It was forwarded to the Village of Buchanan Planning Board, and they spent a couple of meetings specifically focusing on the site plan for this particular site. And after each meeting, they provided comments to your board for your consideration as an advisory board to the village board. And they included, after the second meeting, they included a positive recommendation with respect to the proposed project. So at that point, there had been some more back and forth with requests for additional information. There were specific comments that came from engineering, from traffic, and from our office. And those items have been, they've provided responses. At the last meeting, you had, the meeting before, you had scheduled a public hearing. So that is the purpose for tonight's meeting. I believe Mr. Weingart and his team will, even though they have provided a very comprehensive presentation at the last meeting, this is a public hearing. You may want to at least provide some basics so that the public understands the location of the project, some of the main components of the project, traffic, circulation, stormwater, and architecture. And it's an opportunity for the public to participate before this board makes any determination on site plan approval.
Good review. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Thank you, David. That was very helpful.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Weingarten. I'm a partner in the law firm of Del Bello, Donnell, and Weingarten, Wise, and Wiedeker, and it's my pleasure to be here this evening again representing Buchanan DEV AMS LLC, a related entity of AMS Acquisitions LLC, in connection with its request for site development plan, special permit, and steep slopes permit approval to permit them to construct a 148 multifamily apartment complex on approximately 6 acres at a site located at the intersection of Albany Post Road and Craft Lane in Buchanan, New York. Well known to you, I'm joined tonight. People who've been with us for the last couple of years from AMS, our Director of Design and Development, Ryan Sutherland, our architect, Stuart Lax, a co-managing principal from Perkins Eastman, who you'll hear from in a bit, Kevin Massiavecchio, our engineer from JMC, and Peter Farrow, who coordinated from AKRF, who coordinated the environmental review. I will not go through the process of repeating what David did. I think he did a nice job with respect to the process that we've been through. I will say this, it has been a 2-year odyssey here. Actually, our clients' notes, they think they started in February of 2022 when they first contacted, so it's actually a little bit more than 2 years, but February, March was about the right context, and there was many months of discussion when they were looking at this property for the first time as to what would be acceptable to the village, what they thought would work, what the market would allow, what the economics would permit, and there was a lot of discussion. It went on for almost a year before we filed the petition in January of the following year in order to start the zoning process. So it's been well thought out, and as David mentioned, we've made a number of presentations in context of the zoning before you, before the planning board. I'm sure you're tired of listening to me. Hopefully it's like one of those nice sitcoms that you watch late at night that you've seen 15 times. It's not so bad, but we'll try and get through it quickly. But as David mentioned, the site was rezoned. It was rezoned as it had to be under law after the secret process was completed and all of the environmental review took place, and that includes the things that David mentioned, things that we all knew were important when we started, such as traffic, such as looking at the wetlands, such as looking at the steep slopes, all of these things combined. And it's the reason that we think we have a better project than when we started. It took shape. We made changes. We made changes suggested by this board. We made changes suggested by the planning board. We made changes that were suggested by members of the public. We did everything we could to accommodate where we could. There are certainly a couple of things that were left here that were raised that we were unable to do, and we still even may do some of them in the future. But you can't always make everything work when you have competing interests, and we've done our best to try to come forward with a project that's going to work. And before I get into the specifics, and we'll mention them a little bit before I turn it over to my colleagues here, I do want to also go on the record and mention this. Firstly, we are grateful for all of the work and effort on behalf of this village that the administration and the courtesies that they've shown us. That includes the planning board and everybody else that has worked with us over there. It's been very professional, and we're very appreciative of it. The second thing that I want to mention is these projects are hard. They create change. They bring on a lot of anxiety among people who've lived in a community for a long period of time. I get to experience this often because I do this kind of work. I've done it for more than 30 years all throughout Westchester, and we understand that. We hope very much that this is going to turn out to be a very positive project for this village, and that it will be something that you'll look back on after it's built and your new residents are here, and you see what's happened now for your village, and you can just say, wow, that really was a good idea, and this board did the right thing, and the project's going to work. And we genuinely believe that that's the way it's going to be, and it's not just through thinking about what it might be. It's about similar projects like this in neighboring communities and similar places where it's happened like this. And we learn from those projects every time, and we like to believe we improve on them every time as we go forward. But I will also say to you, and I just also want to mention, the markets change, and this market is not as good as it was 2 years ago. And it's more difficult now to build a project than it was 2 years ago. The interest rates have climbed. The cost and expense of building has seriously increased. And time's not our friend. And we've been saying that from the start. So we are anxious to conclude the project, to conclude this part of it so that we can get to what you don't see, but is the really difficult next piece of this, where we have to go and convince a bank to lend us money and show them the plans and get it engineered and draft construction plans and all those things that have to happen before we actually build a building, because that's going to have to happen, and it doesn't happen overnight. So I just wanted to make that as part, because we haven't had that kind of a discussion. I think the public should, I'll give the brief summary, which is the plan is, and we will show it to you pictorially, a building that's going to house 148 luxury units, 1 and 2 bedrooms only, with upscale amenities, and it's a 5-story building with wonderful amenities. You'll see the pictures and the swimming pools and the things that are going to be there, a place where we believe that people are going to want to live. It's going to have green features such as bicycle racks and energy-efficient appliances and lighting and water-efficient plumbing features. More than adequate parking, 1.5 per unit that was created in your code as part of the rezoning. And 149 of those spaces are underneath the building as part of a structure. We also are going to show you pictures of what we've done with the village's encouragement as far as creating sidewalks in your downtown, and to be able to start that process of creating a walkable and village-like community that we believe is needed and that you've wanted. Now, and as far as what, we all mentioned the site plan, but we also have site development plan and we have special permits. So I do have to mention a couple of things for you. We have to satisfy, and we believe we have satisfied the conditions of your code with respect to the requirements for the special permits that we are seeking. We've talked about creating a more diverse housing stock in your community. What does that mean? It means not just single-family homes. If somebody wants to rent, that there's a place for them to go. If somebody wants to sell their home and downsize and stay in the community, there'll be a place for them to live. If someone's child wants to stay in the community and they don't have the money for a down payment for a new house, well, there's an opportunity for them to come somewhere. And as we've also mentioned in the past, and if somebody's getting divorced and they want to stay near where the family house is, that there can be an apartment in the community for them to live. Those are the people who are going to come to your community and live here, and we hope that we certainly have satisfied that condition. There are very technical details with respect to those conditions that we've gone through with you in the past about providing a transitional use between the R75 and the R10, which is located to the west of the site, and the M1 district to the east. We've talked about creating the aesthetic improvements to the sidewalks and the pedestrian crossings, the landscaping that we'll go through and show you, preserving the natural features. We've talked about significantly generating net property tax revenue for both the village and the school district. For example, we mentioned before that we're building 1 and 2 bedrooms, and some people said, why not 3s and 4s? And the answer is not just market, but also because we've got to be a little concerned about the schools and how many school children that we generate. So we've specifically designed it in a way to try to do a balancing test on all of the things that are of concern to the people in the village. But on a basis, we've estimated, we've done reports, that you'll have $830,000 a year in total property taxes, with approximately $250,000 a year to the village and $470,000 a year to the schools. And when we did our report of all of the expenses that would go up against that money that would be coming from our project, there was significant surplus under every type of scenario that was taken. So we think this is a good deal for the village and a good deal for us. Numerous construction jobs, and I can tell you we see that all throughout Westchester County. During the construction, your businesses are going to love it. They're going to go in your delis. They're going to go in your restaurants. They're going to buy things in your stores. It's a wonderful boost to the economy. And, of course, more long-term benefits for the people when they move in, that they're going to be the potential patrons for those businesses that are here, and hopefully new businesses that will be open. In addition to site plan and special permit approvals that we just spoke about, we're also seeking steep slopes disturbance permit. We've talked before about locating, and we'll show you again, the building in the center of the site to avoid the steep slopes, and the things that we did to do that to the maximum extent practicable as required by law, and we think we've satisfied that condition. I won't go through all of the various things that were done. Suffice it to say, as David has mentioned, there has been a tremendous back and forth. The record is filled with letters from your village engineer, from your attorney, from your planner, to which we've responded to every one of them in writing, and that includes also the questions and comments that came at all of the various meetings, questions from you and questions from the public that led us to today. As we mentioned, we know we don't need a wetlands permit, but we did put in a wetlands mitigation plan because there are wetlands on the site, and even though we're just slightly going into the buffer for very limited reason, which we'll show you again pictorially, we believe strongly that not only we complied with the law, we've gone over and above what's required by the law to make sure that works. So that's my part, or small part, of the presentation. I'm going to ask the group to come up and show you more pictorially the specifics of the project so the public can understand it for this before we open it up for public comment. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Kevin Masiavecchio with JMC, project engineer.
Which one is it, this one or this one?
That one, yeah,
This one?
the other one.
What, the other one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
That one?
Yep.
Okay, hold
Yep. All right. So what we have here
on.
is
Share the screen. Yes, I want to share now. I want to make sure I have the right one.
good evening again for the record, Kevin Masiavecchio, and we're just going to go through some of the site planning aspects, and what we'll kind of put in is point out the few things we took some of the comments from the last meeting and incorporated them into the site plan as well. So kind of starting off, just to let everybody see where the project is. As it zoomed out, as we go through for the public's record and for the board, north is going to be to the left of the page. And the site is highlighted here with orange. The US 9 is on the top of the screen, which is to the east, and Albany Post Road is to the west on the bottom of the screen. And now just zooming in a little bit further, you can see the site is located around the existing hardware store and has frontage on both Craft Lane and Albany Post Road. So towards the southern portion of the site, there is a wetland, which was spoken about earlier, and there's a buffer which does come further onto the property, shown in blue. In orange on this slide is the steep slopes areas. So they're located in both the southeast and northeast corners of the property. And where we developed our site planning from was we tried to place the building and the parking areas outside of these natural items which were already occurring on the site. So we tried to stay out of the orange and blue areas where we were able to, and in doing so we also did propose retaining walls and steep slope cuts to not go further into some of these steep slope areas. So also on that the previous slide, if we just stay there for one more second, in purple, to incorporate future planning, we've designed the site where it's available to have a retail pad in the northwest corner of the property, shown in purple. And then there is additional disturbance that would be necessary if we were to construct it at this time with parking, which will go further into the steep slopes. So in the future, we can get there with seeing what the parking that ends up being necessary on site and what's available to develop the site further. So on this side, we're showing what the steep slope disturbances are, and we're showing in red is the limited disturbance line. So also part of the site planning, there's trees removed on the property, and those are proposed within the limited disturbance area only. So getting towards the proposed site plan, there's 2 accesses for vehicles proposed on the property. The main access will be off of Craft Lane for all passenger cars coming in and out of the site, and then a secondary access is proposed over a mountable curb along Albany Post Road. So zooming in towards the front area where the building is, there's a one-way circulation which goes counterclockwise around, and we've provided a drop-off lane, and then as you go past, you can either go into the garage or you can circulate back around. And what we've done since the last meeting, we've tried to increase the radius as you're coming back down and going left on the screen to get out of the site. So now this slide is highlighting the pedestrian ways. We're providing 3 pedestrian access ways. The one in the center is an accessible route meeting ADA requirements, and the one on the left of the screen to the north does have stairs going through due to topography, as well as the one on towards the southern side. But there's 3 ways for pedestrians to access in and out of the site. So coming from the last meeting, we're trying to incorporate 2 benches throughout these walking paths, and we're highlighting them here with the red stars. So getting to the proposed parking, as mentioned, there's a ratio of 1.51 proposed on the site, which does meet the village code. And we're providing one parking space per unit outside the, or one parking space per unit within the building underneath, and then the remaining will be half a space per unit outside in the surface parking lot. So highlighted here in orange is the proposed electric vehicle charging spaces. There's 12 of them proposed on the site currently as the plan developed, and we're proposing in the future to have everything in the surface parking lot ready where it could become electric vehicle. So the conduits will be run and ready if needed, if there's future demand on the property. And additionally, some of the perimeter spaces within the parking garage are potential for a future electric vehicle. But at this time, these are the only electric vehicle charging spaces proposed. So highlighted in red is our fire access routes. So as discussed, there's 2 vehicle access ways to get onto the site. So they're all access roads. They're 26 feet wide. And as you can see, it circulates towards the right of the screen to the south of the property around the building. And then there's areas for these trucks to back up and maneuver. And what we've and on the southern side of this is the reason why providing this access road and fire access is why we ended up into the wetland buffer. But and then we're also highlighting on here, we're highlighting there's a fire hydrant proposed on the north and south sides of the building in these setup areas, which will be located within range of a fire department connection. And on the east side of the building, which is the top of the screen, which approaches Con Ed's property where the power lines are, there's a fire hose connection, which was coordinated and requested by the planning board. So it's shown in green on this slide is the proposed rock cut areas. So we're proposing a rock cut instead of just grading up more gradually to try and limit the steep slope disturbance. And then on the left side of the screen is what a rock face would look like. And then what we're taking the village comments and proposing is to, instead of putting a wire mesh or any other type of treatment, there will be a proposed retaining wall in front of it for safety as required by the geotechnical engineer. So as you can see, so this is a cross section which goes through the site. In the top right, it kind of shows where it is. It runs through the parking lot area in the northern part of the lot, and all the way on the right side is Albany Post Road. So as we go across, there's a sidewalk, and then we've incorporated a small boulder wall along the frontage. Taking some of the village comments, we want to kind of highlight that we're incorporating that, and we'll get into that in a little zoomed up more look on where we're proposing that as well. But so you go across from the street on the right, there's a sidewalk which is in the right of way, and then there's a small boulder wall, and then we have parking area, and then as you go all the way across, there is the rock cut, which will have a retaining wall in front of it. So getting into some of the utility aspects, the next few slides here. This is the stormwater that's on site. The existing areas are highlighted in 2 different ways. The orange area does travel south in natural conditions right now towards the pond, which is located on the property, and the green areas go towards the north of the property. So that now we're showing the proposed stormwater treatments, and we're taking the practices and we're sending them towards the same ways as they are in existing conditions. And what we're adding to them is some green practices and infrastructure. So as we go to the north, there's a man-made, it's a jellyfish filter, which we'll get into what some of these things look like, but it filters out some of the stormwater that falls and runs off, and then it goes into a detention system, which slows down the water as it leaves the property, so it acts as if it would leaving the property in today's condition. And also in the north side of the property, we're going to replace a culvert which does run across Craft Lane in the corner of the Albany Post Road, which is collapsed, and I think it might be causing some existing condition issues. And going the other way, in the orange, there's a courtyard area, which we'll get into with the building a little bit later on. But the courtyard has green roof features, and then we also go into stormwater planners to treat the stormwater before going into the detention system and then outletting into the pond. So we're going to get into some of these features, which were kind of mentioned quickly a little bit, but to show graphically what they are. So on the left is the stormwater planner, so this will be at grade, and it filters with some media and also plants on top. And on the right side is some of the plants which will be proposed around the courtyard area, just to give an idea of what we're going to be proposing in the courtyard. Now this is the jellyfish filter, which does the same things as the natural plantings on the previous slide, but it just acts as a man-made filter. So then these are the two detention systems that are proposed. They're just kind of big arches or pipes which hold the water back and slowly let it out. And now this slide highlights where the sewer is proposed to connect to and the water is proposed to connect from. The blue shows the water line, which is proposed to connect from Craft Lane, and the sewer connect out towards a manhole, which is located in Albany Post Road. Both these features are within the village district. And these are the features which are run and operated by Con Edison. There's gas, which is proposed to connect off of Craft Lane and come up to serve the building, but also have a backup generator, and the electric, which will run in red up through a transformer and connect to the building. So we've had some coordination with the village on the lighting features throughout the property, and we've kind of shown it's an ornamental-looking lighting fixture, which is located throughout the property. And then there's, in the red circles with the solid line, and the dashed line is a bollard lighting, which would follow the sidewalk path, which comes up through the property to give some more accent lighting for the pedestrian access. So then this is just kind of highlighting and showing that we've provided and done a study which shows that there would be sufficient lighting on the property, and then it does go out to light the sidewalk, which is along the frontage of the property. And this is, we're getting into some of the courtyard lighting, so we're bringing some of the similar lighting with the bollards inside the courtyard area. And then just some other lighting aspects on this slide and the next slide, which we're going to look to propose around the courtyard area, just to give different elements of design and different ways to light these different areas inside the courtyard. Right. And then what we're proposing throughout the property is a significant amount of landscaping between different trees, shrubs, different ground cover mixes, all throughout the property to replant back and make everything look nice as a final product. Right. Zooming in within the wetland buffer area, this is where we're looking to mitigate. We're going to remove invasive species, treat any debris or remove, and then also plant back some native species within the area to really clean up the wetland buffer, which we're only going into just to place this fire access road and stormwater practices. So I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but just for the record, the fire access road is going to be proposed out of a grass-screte surface, so it'll look like a grass growing through, just to also reduce the impervious surfaces that are going within this buffer area. So this slide shows a monument sign. There's two proposed on the property. And then getting into the frontage and what's proposed off-site, is that maybe a little bit hard to see on the screen. Let me see if I can. Where there's thick bushes is where we're looking to put the stone wall. So it would run all the way from the proposed fire access towards where it says Albany, all the way across where the sidewalk goes and turns up Craft Lane. So this is where we're looking to put the boulder wall, which would be 3 feet in height. So it's a 2-foot grade change, so it would extend 1 foot above the grade as well.
And the vegetation, Kevin, I'm sorry.
Yep.
The vegetation would be on top of it? The
Yeah,
bushes?
yeah. So it'll be sidewalks and then the property line. So there's a little bit of a 1 foot offset to make sure we can construct the wall on the property and not within DOT's right of way. And then we would have the retaining wall, and then on the top side of the wall there would be all the screening and trees that we've been coordinating throughout.
And I know there was a question with the boulder wall.
Yep.
So basically, it's just boulders spaced apart.
It would be, I think, the next, in 1 or 2 slides,
Oh,
I
okay,
forget where it
good.
is, but we just kind of a picture of what it visually would look like.
Okay.
Just kind of like the stacked rocks like you'll see in some of the other village towns or in other areas where it's put together and constructed, but it's not spaced out.
Okay.
There are smaller rocks, but depending on what we'll look to do is see how the rock excavation goes, and if we can reuse that rock on site does also help with what has to be taken off the property.
So it would just be rocks kind of put together but not cemented?
We haven't gotten through
You haven't gotten there yet,
the
okay.
full design, but it
Okay.
would be a natural looking stone
All
wall.
right, good.
Yep. And then, so this is just close up on the cross section that we were looking at earlier to kind of get in towards, this is what we're looking at in the frontage area. Again, Albany Post Road on the right, sidewalk, and then the boulder wall, and then the plantings behind it before the parking area. And then, so these are, the plantings, and then an example of what a small boulder wall can look like. So it's not big rocks that are separated, they're stacked together neatly, so they hold back the ground and function as a retaining wall. And then additionally, so that we're looking and coordinating with the village and the neighboring property owner. This is a sidewalk that the village is looking to connect. So we're proposing sidewalk along Craft Avenue and our Albany Post Road frontage, which also crosses the hardware store. And then to connect that sidewalk to the Forest Hill Commons, which is where I believe Dunkin' Donuts is.
Correct.
So to connect that sidewalk, coordinating with the village and the neighboring property owner. And I think I didn't mention on the slide prior, but we are proposing a crosswalk to Lindsay Avenue. So there will be a crosswalk which does go across Albany Post Road to connect the residents and to the village other amenities. And then this slide and the next slide, they really just show kind of renderings of what the courtyard area is proposed to look at. Some fire pits, some barbecue areas, a pool, pergola, and there's just one more. Yep. So that's just kind of, and then we're going to pass it on over to Stuart for some of the building aspects.
Can I just ask a few questions while you're there? So the crosswalk, I see there's only one here, and it's further south. So I don't know. It's across from Lindsay Avenue?
Yep. Yeah, it's proposed at Lindsay. I think what happened if you thought it was south, is because that the last slide, which showed Forest Hill Commons, it shifted the view a little bit. It was in the same location at Lindsay, though.
All right, because you're talking about downtown connectivity. So for people to go downtown, you're telling them to go south, come across the Lindsay Avenue crosswalk? So I was kind of hoping at that main intersection, Craft Lane there, that there would be a crosswalk there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's all up to DOT's final approval, but we wouldn't be able to get approved one at both locations.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's kind of, you can go for one at Craft, or we can go for one at Lindsay.
Okay.
And we initially had looked at for Lindsay because it does connect as a school route over towards the high school. So we thought that might be a little bit more important than having school kids want to walk the other way to go back. But it does provide a connection for village residents going north as well. They might have to walk slightly south, but there are 3 ways of getting out of the property, and one of them is right by that Lindsay Road crosswalk.
That's right, there's that little gravel walkway with now a bench on it.
Yep.
The grass pavers, so that's for the emergency vehicle access? Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
So how much weight can they take? So for example, if a fire truck goes over that, is that going?
No, it's designed for the load of a fire truck.
Okay, all right. I was just curious.
Yeah, but then they're supposed to it's kind of like cement blocks with holes in them, and then grass grows up through it to make the appearance of grass, but it's supportive
Oh, good. I've never seen anything like that.
compared to just driving on like a dirt road or grass area, which would not hold a fire truck.
Okay. And the only other thing, thank you for the benches. I know I had mentioned that last time, and showing where the potential commercial place would be. And then also the plantings. Have you given any thought? Because I know it looks like you have regular trees there, that in the wintertime there'll be no leaves and there'll be no screening. Have you thought anything about doing like an evergreen, a pine tree or something like that? Or
I think with having the stone wall too, with the
Okay.
pine trees as they grow, there's a canopy which you can't really
Oh.
park under, so it makes it a little more difficult. Whereas the deciduous trees, they'll grow up a little higher. You can trim the lower branches, still continue to park underneath them, and they still provide nice foliage and throughout the summer and most of the year there would be the green leaves. But We have been looking at it and considering all the different options, and we're trying to put it all together into something that's going to look appealing in the end.
Maybe even a few evergreens to break it up.
Mhm.
Just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one comment. I would have to agree with you that the crosswalk, I think, is better proposed where it goes to Lindsay Avenue rather than Kraft. And for the exact reasons that you stated. It gives you access to crossover, have access to the church, the school, and also to be able to go down Lindsay towards the circle. Just my feeling.
Thank you.
Well, there is no adjacent crosswalk coming out of Craft Lane.
Not proposed.
No.
Yeah,
There's
we
nothing
proposed that at
existing.
Lindsay, and
Yeah. So you'd be going to nowhere.
if you
Came
go,
out of Craft.
yep,
Yeah. So that's
With
why
the
we
current-
basically have to go to Lindsay.
to exit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it came out of Kraft, you could go up the hill on Kraft Lane and then hook into the Lindsay Avenue sidewalk. So, and I didn't realize that you couldn't have two crosswalks within that area, so I guess if you had to pick one.
Yeah.
That
I
would
think
be
it's
the
just
most
DOT
used.
with the signalized. They don't like too many unsignalized crossings on the state
Okay.
road, so just trying to limit them.
Mhm. All right, thank you.
So we'll go towards the building design now.
Thank you.
Stuart Lax, LACHS architect with Perkins Eastman. It's an honor again to be before the board. So I'll go over the architectural features of the building. You can go to the next one, Marcus.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is the northwest view of the main entry over here, including covered drop-off. You get a glimpse right behind where the car is depicted of the garage entrance and how the site sort of slopes up as it approaches east towards the power lines. Next. This is the view from the pond looking back. You see in the middle how the building is open, where we've got a landscaped courtyard that Kevin mentioned, trying to provide as many of the apartments as possible with a view of the pond. You can keep going. This is the ground floor plan. The slightly purple shaded area is the main entry lobby. There's stairs and elevator up, the garage entrance. And as we've said, 149 cars park in the garage, and then another 74 on grade. This is the first residential floor, additional amenity space in that northwest corner, as well as access onto the courtyard. There is a small pool on the courtyard, be landscaped as well. The trellis for waiting, there's a number of apartments that look out directly onto the courtyard as well. These are sort of the most typical units of the one-bedroom and two-bedroom. There are 85 two-bedroom units and 63 one-bedroom apartments. All of the apartments will be ADA compliant. All of them will have washer dryers and full kitchens. Many, if not most, have balconies, side-by-side washer dryers, kitchens, master suites, etc. This is the second floor plan, and third and fourth plan are similar. The units stack up through the building. These are straight-on elevation views. East elevation view is what's facing the power lines. In the bottom is the north elevation. This is sort of the front door, main entrance, and again the garage entrance over there.
Stuart, I got a quick
Yeah,
question.
sure.
So facing Opening Post Road, you actually
Yep.
only see 4 stories.
Well, the
Topo
bottom.
would be different
Hmm?
on the bottom side. So the elevations would be only 4 stories facing the back of
Face-
the hardware store, let's say.
No, there are 5 because
On
the
the corner,
parking
just-
level.
I know there are 5.
Yeah,
But the exposure from the street side.
from the street. You will see the tree line and the hardware store will block that bottom floor, if that's what I think you're asking.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I can point that out on the next. Yeah, here's the west, but you will not actually see
Right.
this bottom floor because of the trees. between our property and the hardware property, and then the hardware store itself. Will help mitigate that. These are the elevation views within the courtyard itself. And I should say that we have designed an architectural style that we feel fits in with the character of Buchanan, taking advantage of some of the natural color of the stonework and the architectural styles. We've kept a more traditional sloped roof to, again, fit within the context. We sort of know that we are a larger building, but we have broken up the elevations, undulated the walls in an attempt to reduce the overall scale and massing and make it fit within its context. These are, at some of the earlier presentations, we had actual material boards, but again, we're using a sort of more traditional style of materials, a clabbered siding, both in vinyl on the side facing the power lines, and a cementitious, commonly known as a hardy panel, and hardy shingles on the main elevations. Some of the trim work, a stone pattern. You can go to the next slide. There you get the stone, some of the an aluminum facing that looks like wood for the underside of the canopy, and then aluminum and vinyl windows. I think that's some of that's on the next side. Aluminum trim, traditional asphalt shingle for the roof as well. I just want to briefly talk about, and this is something discussed with the fire department early in the project, everything fully conforms to the New York State Building Code, and as a result, stair, trash, and elevator shafts would be 2-hour rated. We're proposing to build those out of 8-inch CMU, concrete block. 1-hour construction for the walls between apartments, 30-minute construction for the corridors. That's 30 minutes on one side of the corridor, 30 minutes to another. So you're still getting an hour from apartment to apartment across. As well, the concrete slab that forms the sort of lid of the parking, the base of the podium, that's a 3-hour concrete slab. And then the floor construction between floors is, again, 1 hour for the floors and the roof. And that's really it. Closing with the, again, entry, sort of the main entrance, main view as you approach the building at the front entrance. So that's my presentation. I don't know if there are any questions or any other questions. No? Terrific. Thank you.
So that concludes our presentation prior to the public hearing. I will mention, if there are people who have not been here previously, the thing that's missing, and we've been going over for the years, is we really do believe we put together the best team of professionals that are available in this region of the country for this type of project. Stuart and his company, and we gave you the credentials and showed you projects previously that they've worked on. They're one of the preeminent architectural firms here. Stuart's a principal in that company. I've done thousands of apartments with Stuart and his company, and we think they're a great addition, as well as JMC and Kevin, who have been on many of the most iconic projects in Westchester that we've worked on with them. We think they do a great job, as well as, of course, we talked about AMS and AKRF, who's here, who did the environmental review. Much of that work was earlier on that your professionals reviewed. We think we did put a great team here, and the only other thing that I'll stress is almost every one of those slides are different from when we first presented them to you, and that's because it's been a collaborative process. We've worked with you, we've made the changes, and when ideas came up, we didn't reject anything. We didn't do everything, but we looked at everything that was requested, and we made sure, and we went back, we looked at alternatives, and we tried as hard as we could to make something work for everybody that was asking. So those are the things that I'd like to stress, and of course, it's a public hearing. We look forward to listening to the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have someone who could not be here this evening. I don't want to leave this out because I want this in the record. So this is from Jean Rudy, and she is right across the street from your entrance and exit. So please, with the water runoff and everything, just make sure that's not going into her yard. And she's had issues in the past. So she's opposed for various reasons, including traffic, noise, water in her yard, and the school, the effect on the school. So I'd like to have her letter put into the record. Okay. And I do thank you again for adding those things in that we discussed last time. I was also happy to see the recreation fee in the resolution because, as we know, with 148 units, there is going to be some type of an impact to our recreation. And our board had, there was a study done, and our board had decided on the fees after the study was done. And I just want the public to know it's a one-time fee. And for a one-bedroom, it would be $1,100. For a two-bedroom, $1,200. Three-bedroom would be $1,300, and a four-bedroom would be $1,400. So, you know, we realize that there will be an impact on our recreation facilities. So, thank you for incorporating that into the resolution. Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing to the floor. Please, when you come up to speak, it's a 3-minute time limit, and also please state your name and where you live. So who would like to come first?
Well, Mayor, Board, and it's great to see this many people in the community out doing this. Much larger communities never even get this much participation. I'm Ed Cook. I am the Vice President of the Westchester Putnam Building Trades. I represent about 30,000 tradesmen, many of whom live in Buchanan. Perkins Eastman is an excellent architectural firm, and they do a very good job. We'd like to see on this project, when it moves forward, some labor standards put into place, possibly vetting out the workforce to make sure that we have authorized workers on the project, and we have an opportunity to competitively bid. The Westchester Putnam Building Trades have equity partners. If they're looking for financing, we'd love to partner in a beautiful project like this and see something go well and provide work and tax revenue. Cornell University has a study. It's an older study that says that when local labor does the work, 30 cents on the dollar stays local. When exterior imported labor comes in, that money just goes away. So with that, we'd like the board to consider some labor standards. And you're in good hands with Perkins Eastman. With professional trades of the building trades, you have a safe workplace with fewer injuries and a quick resolution to get back to work, and hopefully no fatalities on these projects. So again, thank you, board, thank you, mayor, and you guys are great here in Buchanan. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Yep, got somebody.
Hi, my name is John Keenan. I live at 245 Canton Street, right up the block from where this project's going. When it started, the first artist rendition, we saw the top floor and the roof. Now it looks like all we're going to see is the bottom floor covered by trees. Is that... It seemed like it wouldn't be so... They were going to try and hide it behind trees so that we didn't have this massive project in the middle of Buchanan, but we're not doing that anymore. Is that right?
Well, according to them, like most of it is going to be covered by the hardware store, and that was my concern with the trees, that they weren't like, you know, trees with leaves that fall in the wintertime, because then we only have a screening for a certain amount of time. So
Right.
That's why I was looking more for an evergreen to kind of screen what was going on there.
So we get to see the top 3 floors and the roof at this point.
That's probably what's going to happen, yeah. Yeah. I know, it's for the village, it's a big change. It's the highest building we have here is a 3-story building, so adding an additional 2 floors, it's you know, it's a big building.
Right. Is there going to be blasting at this site? clear out landfill and stuff?
Hi, Brian Sutherland, AMS. So as we get into site work, we have to evaluate the rock that's on site and determine whether we have to actually blast or chip. And obviously, if we get into blasting, we have to follow all state regulations in that regard.
And village. Yeah, I heard someone say village and village. Oh, was that you, Mr. Weingarten? Okay. All right.
For the record, I just want to mention that there were visual impact studies showing various viewpoints from Albany Post Road and elsewhere of what the building would look like. That was all part of the environmental review that we did go through with you. And one of the significant features is not just the fact that there's a hardware store and that there are trees that are still there, but that the building itself is also set significantly back from the road. It's not right up on the road where it would be more imposing. It's far to the back. So when we went through that, and you went through the findings of how we went ahead to mitigate that, it looked as if, at least at that time, when it was a unanimous vote, that we were handling it properly. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you for your comments, Mr. Keenan. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for, against?
I actually just have questions.
Sure.
I haven't really been paying attention about what's going on here, and somebody was calling it apartments, somebody was calling it condos.
I'm sorry, could you state your name?
Oh,
and
Jennifer
Thank you.
Sahota, 8 Donahue Court. So I want to know if is it rental apartments or condos? Rental. And what, you're calling them luxury apartments, so what would the rent be?
It's going to take us a while to build these, so we can't say exactly what it's going to be a couple of years from now by the time it's built, open and operating. But the average two-bedroom these days in the Westchester area is probably, I just read an article, about $3,500 for this type of, a month for this type of unit. The one-bedroom's more in the $2,500 a month, and that we've been talking about, but it's a range, and but that's probably about what we're talking about. And it could be more if prices go up in the next 2 years as to what it costs to build, or it could come down. We're not sure, but that's about right.
That's a good question. Does that include heat or no? Would that be separate?
So typically, yeah, I mean, project to project, that can change, whether it's included in the rent or it's a separate charge, and it depends on how we meter it and how we structure it in the building. So it varies.
Okay.
And then I just have one other concern. It just happened in Harlem where they built a luxury building, and the residents found out that they were going to be putting people in who came over because they need housing, and the residents fought it. Is there something that you could put into the agreement where they wouldn't be able to do that as well? Like if the government were to push, okay, we need housing.
Mr. Weingarten, would you be able to answer that? I don't know if...
I'm not sure how people would feel on one side of the issue or the other, but the bottom line from a legal standpoint is right now the state has said that nobody is allowed to locate migrants, who I think is who you're referring to, in any community without their permission. So that has not been happening. It has been happening, for example, in Harlem, where the mayor and the city council have said it's okay to do these things here. But I know Rockland County fought it and other places fought it, and there so far has not been any example of that in the state government. And the governor has said we're not going to do that in communities where they're unwilling. So I think from that doesn't mean that can't change, but that is the state of the law as I understand it right now.
Thank you.
Good evening. Lori Perch, 3 Donahue Court. There were two questions that I had. One had to do with the aesthetics of the building that's going to be in there. I know we've talked about trees and evergreens. There's a particular one called Thuja Green Giant. It's an evergreen. It can grow up to 80 feet tall. They don't spread out wide. They kind of keep their space and create walls of greenery. So I wanted to see if that might be something that could be considered or looked into as a possibility once all is said and done. If you're at that point in the project and it still kind of stands out, which I know a lot of people are concerned with. There's one possible solution, nice and tall, greenery. Is that a possibility to have more discussion about what actual trees or greenery go in?
We're looking with this site plan to have a site plan approval, but one thing I can tell you is landscaping is not generally something that prevents a project from going forward. So if there are things that the village wants us to consider post-approval, saying it could be an approval, it can be an improvement, it's not something that we're going to object to. The issue is that it also has to have, we have a very narrow planting area, because if you saw from there that we have the rock wall, and then you have to get the parking to start, and we have limited places to put parking because we have steep slopes in the back. So we also have the issue of the trees and how it extends forward, and whether or not it will prevent eventually over the years as it grows the parking issues and how it can be trimmed. So we did have landscape architects that came in and looked and thought that this was the best solution. But we would certainly look at something if somebody had a reasonable suggestion. It's not something we would have any issue with.
Yeah, I think there's some interest in screening.
Yeah, sure. Us too.
A second question I had. It was talked about with these, first it was boulders, then it's clusters of rocks that are going to go in along the side, near the sidewalk. I'm not sure who spoke about it, but my question is, it's not going to be those cages that you see full of rocks in the highway settings. Because that's the first thing I thought of when you said clusters of rocks. I thought of those awful-looking cages full of rocks. So nothing like that, but no cement involved.
It's not. There might be cement holding it together.
Okay.
It's not like it's not the rock.
Cement wall with a rock in it. Right, won't be that. Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
All right. Thank you, Lori and Jen.
Thank you, Lori.
Jackie? Julie?
Hi. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off topic. As you guys know, tonight was registration for the Village of Buchanan, and last week we had 2 days Village of Buchanan. Today we had non-residents come in, and we had a large amount of people register for camp this summer. My husband said that the best way to get something done is to address the board and everybody involved. I have a concern.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
Yes.
You just put your name on the record.
Jacqueline Pasquale, the Recreation Supervisor for the Village of Buchanan. I want to see if there's any possible way to have the tennis court flooring repaired. It's a large area that we're going to lose if we're not allowed to use it. And I was told by Scott that it's unsafe right now. I mean, we want the kids to be safe, but it's really a large area that the camp will use and we've used in the past. And losing it, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a recreation committee, and I remember Teresa, we were speaking about that, and they were talking about how it would cost a lot of money to have this thing repaired right now, but I would really like to see if you can consider doing something to have that area repaired.
The board would have to have a conversation about that. Marcus knows about the issue there, and then also our engineer. So it's a conversation the board will have before camp opens.
All right. I
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Yep.
Have
Okay.
a good evening.
Yep, you too.
Thanks, Jackie.
Rich Funcher on 179 Kings Ferry Road. I have a few questions. First off, I want to compliment the architect and the engineer. They did a fabulous presentation. On the subject of the apartments, are the ones that faces east and there's ones that face west? The ones that face east is going to be facing the highway, and they're going to be facing electrical lines, and they're going to be facing the railroad tracks. Are they going to be rented at a cheaper price?
Yeah, I mean, typically when you put a building up for rent, you analyze all the units, you see what views they have, what they're looking at, what the type of units they are, and the rents can vary from unit to unit. To answer your question, they'll likely be different.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I don't know whether it's been mentioned before, I apologize if it has been, but what is the estimated time from beginning of construction, meaning clearing the land, and to what you would see as the completion of the whole area?
From the time we started, we would estimate between 18 to 24 months till it was completed and occupied.
And during that 18 to 24 months, is the AMS, are they supplying the security for the site? Yes. Okay, thank you. The one thing I want to point out, the traffic study, I think was only done for 9A. Is that correct? Albany Post Road? I wanted to be, because what I'm already experiencing on Kings Ferry Road is that with the uptick of traffic coming from the train station, especially after COVID, and the traffic gets backed up, a lot of the traffic is going down Dutch Street in Montrose, and an awful lot going down Kings Ferry Road. To avoid running into traffic, then they go down and get on the highway at Louisa Street. So I think that's a factor. And another concern of mine is, since the whole project is going to be using a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of heavy trucks, I would just assume naturally there is going to be a lot of damage done to Albany Post Road. Who is, maybe you could answer from the board, who is responsible for repairing the road? Is it the state, is it the AMS, or is it Buchanan? Does anybody know?
It's a New York State road.
Okay, but we got to drive on it.
Right, and then there'll be
all right,
parking pads.
thank you.
Oh, okay.
And the last meeting you mentioned about that you were letting the hardware store use parking spaces?
No.
There was,
No, that was never discussed.
What's that?
That wasn't discussed.
Well, you said it, that they were using it. So no, my only question is, you don't have to get up. My only question is, has the land already been sold to you by Franz Sosa?
We are in contract to purchase. Do we close?
Okay, so you own the property then. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just thank you, because with my phone, I didn't start timing it. So thank you, Rich.
The comment regarding the hardware store, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, is there's an easement that allows the hardware store to access their refuge containers behind the hardware store. And they've been doing that all this time on another owner's property. They're now just legalizing that and allowing them to do that properly.
Thank you, Steve.
Anyone else? I see someone.
My name is Bob McCarthy. I live over here on Park Street. I'm not your typical Buchanan resident because I've only been here for 7 years. So I come from Yonkers, where obviously buildings are a lot larger than 5 stories. I think over time, a project like this is very beneficial. The gentleman did a great job tonight. But over time, people are asking about, will we see 4 stories, will we see 3 stories? Over time, you don't see anything, okay? You drive Albany Post Road, you don't see the building. It's a beautiful new building, so it's not going to be negative to the environment, of people's eyes, and so on. So I'm in favor of the project, not only because of how it's going to look, but also to the revenue that it's going to bring to a town like this. I happened to buy my house, and 2 weeks later, Indian Point closed. So I've been impacted negatively from that side all along. So this is definitely a positive boost for the town, and I think it's a very worthwhile project.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for your
McCarthy.
comments.
I saw someone else, I think. Lisa?
Hi, Lisa Mercora, 162 First Street. So one thing, just for the record, at the public hearing, I think it has come up when I speak with people about this, that people seem to think that this is going to be a huge revenue break to our village taxes. And I just want to, for the record, clarify. So I know you mentioned it was $250,000 of village taxes, but you stacked it up against relevant expenses, and there was still a surplus. Is there a number for that?
There is. It was in the study. We can look for it. It was in the environmental study. I just don't have it offhand.
Okay.
We can look and see if we can find it.
Oh, good. Because so that whatever portion of the $250,000 to the village taxes, it's not really a huge benefit if you look at the 850 taxable entities in our village. So, and there is like a formula for for how much that much money would impact a specific village taxpayer, and it really would be something like $100 to $120. So it's not a huge number. So
It's understandable, but you have to look at the alternative. In a month from now, I think we're going to be discussing the budget, and when we discuss that impact in the reverse to a resident, it's very impactful. So it is about 7% or 8% of our budget, so it is minimal, but you do have to also consider the impact of the school district budget as well, which is $450,000. In addition to that, there's significant building fees that the project will also generate to the village. They're one-time fees, but they are significant, probably in the ballpark of $600,000 to $700,000, Marcus, if I'm right. So there is a significant impact to the residents.
It's just, I think people hear these numbers and they think it's like millions of dollars.
Oh, no.
And $250,000 to our village residents, so that equates to like 6% of the average. The ratio, if you break it down, when I sat with Marcus, is 6% impact if all of that 250 was profit. So 6% for a normal taxpayer is going to be something like $170. And if that entire amount doesn't make it as profit, it's going to be half or a portion of that.
I'm just not following where you say for profit.
So he's quoting the number, the number that the village tax revenue, but that's not the net gain. That's the revenue piece. There is a related expense piece. So not all of that is going to be profit, because there's elements of expense, whether it's additional police, additional traffic control, additional litter control, additional wear and tear on our systems, whatever it is. So whatever portion of that 250,000, so while they're looking up the number, say it's half, 125,000. Just throw that number out. That's $80 per village resident. It's not a lot of money considering what a change it is to our village, the effect on the traffic, and all these other things. Now, the building, I think, also is very nice. And I hope that as a village resident, I hope that if it does bring any negative effects, that like we address them and we keep our village, protect our village, and protect it, and don't let any of the negative things happen. Whatever they are, whether they don't fill the building, whether they have to lower the rent, whatever they have to do. Like, I just hope that we can maintain our beautiful village.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
Thank you.
Lisa, I also wanted to thank you, too, because Lisa brought it to our attention about the sign, the public hearing sign that we had not displayed out there. So thank you. Going forward, any of the projects, there'll be a public hearing sign on the property.
Awesome.
And if I could add one more thing, too, you got to factor in the addition of the rec fees as well.
The addition of the what?
The addition of the recreation fees.
The one-time fee.
It's a one-time fee, yes.
So I just want to mention, apologize, we just don't have the study with us, so I can't refer to it, although we did go through it with you when we went through that. But I will say this, I do want to point out that the hope is, because keep in mind that it's our client that's making this very large investment, that this is not going to be a one-piece project. And it may not just be AMS, but the hope when you do it in these other communities as well is you start creating a village, and this is going to lead to more. And not necessarily the same kind of building, but just more stores, more people that are willing to be here because there's more customers spending in your downtown. You have to start somewhere. So the hope is that you do this. You've created an overlay zone. You want to have something that's a more village-like character, maybe more like some of your other communities that are around you. And what you hope is that this is the first project of many projects that you go through and you wind up approving that lead to a much improved economic status. It's not going to happen with one project. This is a positive project from a net basis, both for the schools and the village, as we've proved in the studies, but as also pointed out, more significantly for the schools than the village, because it's not only more money, there'll be very few school children in 1- and 2-bedroom apartments that'll be coming in, but more to the point, we're hoping this leads to more development, and we're thinking that's going to improve our investment as well as your village. Thank you.
And we don't have that much property, as you know. There is another parcel over by our sewer treatment plant that had been looked at years ago. So we don't have that much more other than the Indian Point property that can be developed at this time. Is there anyone else in the, okay.
Hi, I'm Tanya Drezick. I live on Travis Avenue in Buchanan here. In regards to the building, the loose stone... Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm short. The loose stone wall, let's say something happens. Who's going to be responsible for the cost of repair? Okay, just want to make sure about that, because, so many feet.
It's not a loose stone wall, first of all. It's gonna
I know what
be
it is. There's cement behind it, and then the stone's in the front.
You
I know.
said loose stone wall.
Because that's what, I think he said those words, didn't you?
She's not a contractor, so she's asking questions that
Yeah, I mean,
anyone would ask.
I don't know why you're jumping on me, but thank you.
Jumping on you?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so, let's see. So they can't put 2 crosswalks in Buchanan right there, because like in Montrose, they have it up the road.
They also, they denied one over at Rockledge as well.
Oh,
You could talk to the mic.
Oh.
Huh.
We've been on calls with DOT, and they did deny one further south at Rockledge because they're too frequent. So we can approach them, but also as you go towards Craft, on the other side, there's no sidewalk to connect to at this point. So-
Just want to make clear, I want you to understand, anything on Route 9 has to be approved by the DOT.
Yeah, I know that.
So they can add as many crosswalks as they want for the DOT.
They could bring it up
But
to
to be clear,
DOT.
we're happy to do it. It doesn't cost
Yeah,
us
that's what I want.
crosswalks.
It
It's
could
a-
be
We're not
crosswalks.
against it. It's just the engineers are telling you what their conversations are with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
DOT.
yeah, I know. I just asked the question. And then, okay, so Section 8, I think in Westchester, is very high amount. So if these apartments, I know they're fair market, okay, if they don't get rented, how long do you wait? What is your waiting period that you're going to open it up for Section 8?
You don't open up a building for Section 8. By law, every building is open to Section 8, but a person has to be there, they have to qualify, and they have to have enough assistance to be able to afford the unit. I would think this project, if it was to the point of where the rents were supporting Section 8, it would probably be, our client would be bankrupt and that the project would be up for auction. So I don't think that's something that would happen on a project at this luxury level of what we're building.
Okay, so, and this is off topic. I was watching old meetings, and there was talk of Jupiter, a battery storage facility. I haven't seen any other, there was a survey being done, and I think soil testing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The public hearing only refers to the AMS project.
Okay, so I can't
So
talk
you-
about that off topic. No, because the rec talked about off topic. That's why I said, oh, maybe I can bring it up. So,
Yeah, that probably shouldn't have happened.
okay,
but,
no, that's all right.
she
I'm
was,
just asking. Just
Okay,
asking.
thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Okay. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. So, I'm just going to put it out there. My biggest concern, of course, and I brought this up before, is the traffic. It's a busy road as it is, and we're probably looking at 148 units plus there's another project, so there's 200 units that are coming in that area. So I'm just hoping that there's some mitigation of that. I have seen that road. I've lived here my whole life, and I've seen.
You want the traffic engineer to address that?
Let me just, And I've just seen over the years, I know there's traffic studies, I know there's all this stuff, I get it. but, the reality sometimes of things. So that's not only my concern. A lot of people are concerned about that because it's not easy coming out of those side streets. I was up at Rockledge Avenue last week, and I think it was about 2:30 in the afternoon, and it took me quite a while to cross the street. So it's just something that's on everybody's mind. It's, I have seen when the VA was operational there, and we had a factory further south, Tensolite, and around 4:30, the traffic was just backed up beyond the fire department. So if we could, look at that, address that. I know there's been studies done, but, studies are studies, and then reality strikes too.
Philip Greeley from Collier's Engineering and Design. So there were several traffic studies conducted for this project and for the Village Square project. New York State DOT controls Albany Post Road 9A. Early on in this process, we had meetings with New York State DOT, the applicants, and we reviewed the concerns in terms of pedestrians, vehicular traffic. The applicants evaluated potential improvements, not only crosswalks and location of crosswalks, and I think this location is primarily governed by the site distances. Okay, so DOT, when they review this, each location, whether a crossing at Craft, which doesn't have a sidewalk on the west side, would be reviewed relative to site distances for vehicles traveling along that roadway. The village did ask specific questions for other mitigation measures. DOT will make the ultimate determination relative to not only the sidewalks that are going in, traffic signals, turning lanes, control of traffic during certain hours of the day. So DOT has been part of this whole process. The applicant has a permit application in front of New York State DOT, and one of our recommendations in terms of any approval resolution would be satisfying DOT and any other items that we have input on as the consultant for the village following DOT's review.
I want to add just one more comment. In my discussions or our meetings with the DOT, I am very impressed that they put up the pedestrian crossings and safety as high or higher than the traffic. They know that's close to the high school. They got the Dunkin' Donuts. In fact, one of the DOT engineers' daughter goes to the Hendrick Hudson School themselves. So they are very, very on top of the pedestrian safety and traffic safety with the school. So I've worked with them for over 40 years, and they've taken pedestrian safety very much higher than I've seen any place else. So I didn't put down a record. So they are looking at this very closely.
Good. And that is a concern of all of ours. You have the high school there, and it's dangerous right now in front of Day Rose there. It's the kids are crossing the street to go to Dunkin' Donuts or to get a pizza or something like that. So it's a concern for everyone.
It's a benefit to like an amenity.
You had like 1 minute left because I did time you.
Did you ever think about maybe like getting a bus to transport, like, because there will probably be professionals that are going to be wanting to go to the city on the train. So maybe it would stop some of the car traffic, like if there was a bus system that you had going back and forth to the train. Just an idea.
It's a thought. No.
We did discuss it, and we discussed it with the board, and it was part of it. We have looked into it. We've looked into it in other places. The issue today, which makes it even more difficult to be economically efficient, because I actually just went through one in Greenburgh, New York, where they required it as part of the approval, and we just had to have the town board relieve us of the requirement because nobody was using it. Because the problem is that in the old days, everybody went to the train at the same time, and everybody came back at the same time, and you ran 3 shuttles in the morning and 3 shuttles in the afternoon, and it worked. And now nobody's going to, they're working out of their house, they're doing it 3 days a week, it just is very difficult. And you can see the mass transit MTAs, that you read these things in the paper, all struggling with this same issue, but to do it economically, it just, unfortunately for this number of people, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, because I know I've seen the Abbey, they have a bus down at the railroad station, so I've seen that there, but that might work for them. Maybe who they rent to might, have a different, most of them work in the city or something. I don't know, but I've seen that there. Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Residents, no? Okay. Any comments from the board members before I go to, before we close the public hearing and I read the, oh my goodness, the resolution here? Okay. I'm going to make a motion. I'm sorry, Bob.
First, I'd like to thank Mark and his team for being here. I think you've done a great job. I think I've seen this presentation 4 times in the last month. Every time I see it, I'm more and more impressed with the building, the way it's being constructed. For those of you who don't know, this project started before I actually got on the board. It's one of the reasons I decided to run on the board, because I was a highway foreman. I heard about what's going on with it. I had reservations like a lot of people do about the size of it and everything else that they were talking about doing. So for about a month or so, I'm riding around at work during the day. I'm looking at the property going, agreeing with Mark, it's back quite a ways from the main road. And the more and more I thought about it, and this board has heard me say it numerous times, and probably some of you people have heard me say it also, is that the village has to change. The character of Albany Post Road we've talked about for as long as I've lived here, 40 years. It's not very good character right now. And actually, one of the ex-trustees, Nick Zachary, asked us all here about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, what our thoughts were on what the village should look like along Albany Post Road once this project starts. And Mark hit the nail right in the head, in my opinion, is that, or at least my goal, or my thoughts were that this would be the beginning of a new Albany Post Road. That will be a nicer entrance into the village. Years and years ago, we've heard lots of village residents say, when I have people come to the village, I don't bring them that way. I send them down Kingsbury Road or down through Verplank. I'd like Albany Post Road to be something we're all proud of, that will bring business here, bring people here, and enhance what we have. So, it's changed. We are a little bit spoiled by what we have here along Albany Post Road. Yes, the traffic can be tough at times, but, I've lived there 40 years. I think this is something we need to do. I think it's great for the community, and I'm just very supportive of this idea. I'd like to thank you guys again for your time, and that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Anyone else before I close the public hearing?
Yeah, I would like to thank the staff as well, Mark and the engineer, Stuart. I think you guys, a great presentation again. This is the 3rd time. It seems like yeah. So the 3rd time, but we appreciate your time and your effort. And yes, after each meeting, we've seen more and more progress with your buildings and your plans. And your site plan is beautiful. I like the way you're using native rock. I hope the native rock will be included in the stone wall, and the stone wall that will have concrete in it. Yes, and I also like that you are taking into consideration how it affects our residents. It really means a lot to us. And moving forward, I think we're going to develop a great relationship. I think this is our starting point for a great run with the Village of Buchanan and making us part of the future. And I thank you again for coming in.
I'd also just want to say one thing, that, I'm a member of the Firehouse also, and we've met with the developers a few times talking about various things as we do with the board here, and they're very responsive to everything we've ever brought to the plate about anything, and they're working with the board in the Firehouse very easily.
I would just like to comment and say thank you again for the presentation and your time throughout this whole process. You guys have been a consummate partner, and I think that speaks volumes about how successful this project is going to be. I think it's a win-win for everybody, and I'm looking forward to what's in store for the future. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to echo the other board members, I thank you all for coming in and providing this project. There's a little misconception, and I've heard it out in the public, and they're saying that the board is just allowing the developer to come in and really do whatever they want, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We've listened to you guys for 2 years. We've provided feedback, changes. The planning board had changes, and you really presented a great project at the end, and it's changed a lot in the last 2 years. The team that AMS has put together, they are elite. The projects that Perkins Eastman and JMC has been on, they're fantastic throughout the county, as well as the ones that Mark and his firm represent. So I just thank you all for coming in, and looking forward to this project in the village.
All right. And, you know, we mentioned change, we mentioned the future. The village has been dealing and working through change that was handed to us with the closure announcement in 2017. So we continue to weave through that process, and this is the largest development that has happened here in the village other than the Indian Point property. So I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to torture you people. The resolution is 15 pages long, so I'm not going to read the 15 pages. I'm going to read most of the whereas. This was posted on our page, our website, so anyone who would like to have access to that to read this, please do so. But like I said, that letter will go into the record, and then also this will go into the record. So just bear with me. I think there's about 3 pages, and I will try to make it painless here. Whereas on February 7, 2024, the Village Board continued its review of the application, including a discussion of such design-related items as the visual impact of the proposed rock-cut wall and the potential landscape treatment of the Olney Post Road frontage. Whereas on March 5th, the Village Board continued its review of the application and conducted a public hearing on the application, at which all members of the public were invited to attend and comment on the application. Now therefore be resolved that the foregoing recitals are incorporated herein by reference and are fully adopted as part of this resolution. And be it further resolved that, having reviewed the entire record as noted above in the relation to the special permit, the Village Board considered the following special permit criteria contained in 211-42B of the zoning code, and hereby finds that the project is consistent with each of the criteria as follows. 1, all proposed structures, equipment, or material are readily accessible to fire and police protection. The application has consulted with the fire department in its design and location of the proposed building and to ensure adequate emergency access to the building. The site design includes an emergency access lane on 3 sides of the building, which will provide adequate access to the building for emergency vehicles, including fire apparatus and police vehicles. In addition, at the suggestion of the Planning Board, standpipes are proposed on the east side of the proposed building to further enhance fire protection. The proposed use is of such location, size, and character that in general it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is proposed to be situated in. The project is of such location, size, and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the C2 district. It complies in all aspects with the requirements of the zoning code, is consistent with and will advance numerous long-term planning goals and objectives of the village as contained in the village's comprehensive plan. The project will increase revenue for the village and other associated districts via real property taxes generated by the residential development on a site currently assessed as vacant land. The project will provide residential rental opportunities not currently available in the village, helping to diversify our housing types available in the village. It'll enhance the pedestrian circulation infrastructure with new sidewalks and crosswalk, introduction of new discretionary spending by each of the 148 new households, some proportion of which will be spent in the greater Buchanan community. The location and size of such use, the nature and intensity of operations involved or conducted in connection therewith, its site layout and in its relation to access streets are such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection therewith will not be hazardous or inconvenient to or incongruous with or conflict with normal traffic or neighborhood. The location and size of the use, the nature, the intensity of the operation, its site layout in relation to streets will not be hazardous or inconvenient to or incongruous with conflict with the normal traffic in the area. Okay. Yeah, this is hot. Who put this all together, Stephanie and the other attorney? Sorry, it's just a long resolution. In addition, the village... Okay, well, let's blame David. In addition, the village board determined that the project will result in an improvement to the pedestrian environment, as we said before, in the area by providing sidewalks along the frontage of the project site, extending along the adjacent property, existing with the existing hardware store. The location and height of buildings, the location, nature, and height of walls and fences, and the nature and extent of landscaping on the sides are such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings. The project has been thoroughly designed to take into consideration the features of the project site. It has been designed in compliance with the requirements of the zoning code and advances a number of the village's goals as contained in the comprehensive plan. Accordingly, the location and height of the building, the location, nature, and height of fences and landscaping are such that the project will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development of adjacent properties. Once again, the impact of the proposed use will not engender avoidable impacts upon the environment of the site or adjacent lands, and that any such impacts will be the minimum necessary to accommodate the proposed use, and further, that there will be the maximum preservation of unique ecological or environmental assets. As contained in the negative declaration, the project has been designed to limit disturbance to steep slopes on the project and to preserve natural features on the project site, including the water body on the southern portion of the project site, which includes a robust landscape planting program to the maximum extent practical. And be it further resolved that the village board hereby determines that the project is consistent with standards contained in 21-26 of the zoning code related to site development plan. The project has been designed to be harmonious in its relationship to adjacent properties. Access to the project site has been designed for maximum safety and convenience of vehicular and pedestrian use. Adequate utility services, including water and sewer, are available to the project site. The project has been designed to minimize disturbance, to limit disturbance to steep slopes on the project, and to preserve natural features on the project site, including the water body, once again. The applicant has demonstrated that the project is consistent with and will advance numerous long-term planning goals and objectives of the village as contained in the village's comprehensive plan and the C1, C2 overlay district design guidelines. And be it further resolved, consider the proposed building design in light of the purposes for design review as outlined in Article 7, 21-26A, with respect to architectural design of building signs and other structures, and finds that the design is depicted on the plans, and finds that the design is consistent with and has a harmonious relationship with the project site. Resolved that the village board hereby determines that the proposed discernments of steep slope for the project is consistent with the standards contained in Section 165-6 of Village Code, and the steep slopes disturbance permit is hereby granted. Resolved that the village board has reviewed the EAF and the entirety of the record and concludes that the proposed action is consistent with the negative declaration. Resolved that the applications for special permit and site plan development approval are hereby granted, and the applicant may obtain the endorsed approval of the mayor on a copy of this resolution, and upon the site plan drawings, which endorsement shall permit filing in Buchanan Building Department for purposes of obtaining the building permits. The site development plan approval granted herein shall expire if the following conditions have not been satisfied. A, submission of an application for building permit within 1 year of the adoption of this resolution, commencement of construction within 6 months of the issuing of a building permit, completion of the site development plan approval may be granted for good cause by the village board at the request of the applicant for periods of 6 months each. In accordance with Section 21143B of the Zoning Code, the special permit granted herein shall be deemed to be of indefinite authorization, but shall expire 18 months from the date of this approval unless a building permit has been issued. Conditions prior to endorsement of site plan development. The following conditions shall be satisfied by the applicant. The resolution authorizes the applicant to undertake only the activities specifically set forth herein. In accordance with Section 211-28D of the Zoning Code, the applicant shall pay to the village any outstanding professional review fees The applicant shall furnish the village with 3 print sets of the site development plan as described above for endorsement by the mayor, an electronically scanned version of the approved plans. Upon payment of all the required fees and the satisfaction of conditions 1 through 6 of this resolution and following the endorsement of the site plan by the mayor, 1 printed set will be returned to the applicant. Conditions prior to the issuance of a building permit. So the following conditions will be satisfied by the applicant. Satisfaction of conditions 1 through 6. Issuance of a building permit by the building inspector shall be fully based on in accordance with this resolution. All construction drawings shall be in compliance with New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. The applicant shall pay the Village Buchanan applicant permit and review fees as required by the Village Code and as approved by the village attorney. In accordance with 90-7 to 11-28 of the Village Code, the applicant shall deposit an initial sum of money to be held in escrow by the village, an amount to be established by the village administrator to be used to reimburse the village for costs incurred by the village in connection with review of any applications by village consultants. Any signage shall be constructed and installed in conformance with 211-20. Provision of a copy of the New York State Department of Transportation Highway Work Permit as applicable. In accordance with Section 211-28B of the zoning code, the applicant shall be required to post a performance bond or other type of acceptable money guarantee, which shall be an amount determined by the village administrator and village engineer. The village board has determined that locating additional recreational uses over and above the proposed indoor and outdoor recreational amenities proposed for the project's residents is not practical given the environmental constraints on the project. So what that means is there was not enough room on the site, so that's how we got into other things. Therefore, the applicant shall be required to pay a fee in lieu of providing such additional on-site park space prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So that was something that the board knows was changed up. Originally, it's usually done at the time, when the permits are issued, but, there was a discussion about waiting until there was a certificate of occupancy, since it's going to take almost 2 years for the project to be built, 18 months to 2 years, for the project in accordance with Section 211-271. So this just gets more into Section 211-28C, the required to post maintenance security in the amount determined by the village administrator and village engineer. As required by Section 211-32 of the Village Code, the applicant shall submit as-built building plans and an as-built survey prior to the issuance of any temporary or permanent C of O. So, I did it. Oh, the last thing is completion of all traffic mitigation measures, including all pedestrian and roadway improvements identified by the DOT as well as the village traffic consultant. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for bearing with me after I read all this. So I would like to make a motion to approve all that I just read, the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. So David, I think David, George, I think you can go home now.
Thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thank you, George. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. It's one heck of a resolution. Really well. Okay.
Just say one quick thing. So just on behalf of the AMS team, the project team, want to thank the village staff, professionals for all their collaboration the past 2 years. We're looking forward to the next couple of years and making this project come out of the ground.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, so.
You too, George.
You too. You're all set, George. You got your green on. So the next is something we do every year. It's authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Cortland regarding the shared use of equipment and bidding by the town purchasing director. This started back years ago with Linda Puglisi. And so whereas the Village of Croton-on-Hudson has utilized the town's purchasing services and us over many years by using town bids to purchase supplies and materials. So we'll be doing that. Whereas it is the desire of the Village of Croton-on-Hudson, the Village of Buchanan, to authorize the town's purchasing director when advertising for bids on behalf of the town to include the Village of Croton-on-Hudson and the Village of Buchanan as parties who may utilize the bids. The other one is for shared equipment. Hold on one second. Okay, so there's just different requirements here when we borrow, or whether the town or the Village of Croton borrows any of the equipment. The loan is on a temporary basis. Oh boy. The loan is on a temporary basis on any equipment loaned. It's delivered with a full tank. The parties agreed to keep all of their motor vehicles insured. The vehicles will be returned in the same condition. That all sharing of equipment will be without charge of any kind. The parties agreed to the beginning of each year to provide each other with a certificate of insurance. And this really has been a benefit for us over the years. There's been many a time where perhaps, and Bob would know best, where our garbage truck, maybe one of our garbage trucks was down, or somebody needs our bucket truck, but it's worked very, very good over the years. The communities work very well together. So what else have we shared equipment-wise, Bob?
They've helped us with numerous things, between the bucket truck, garbage trucks, manpower when needed for certain projects. So it's been a very good plan.
It's good to work together. So I would like to make a motion authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Cortland regarding shared use of equipment and bidding by town purchasing director. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The next, it's that time of the year for the Village of Buchanan, the budget hearing. This is the time of year that we schedule the budget hearing. So I'd like to make a motion to call for a public hearing on April 3rd, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next is the police chief contract. I know, Steve, you are the liaison, so I don't know if you want to tell the public what the resolution of the contract negotiation was?
Yeah, I don't have the resolution. It's probably,
Okay. Well,
but the police contract was up. Shane Farrell has been our chief for a number of years now. He does a fantastic job. I meet with him pretty much on a weekly basis, and he's really does a great job of getting the department really to work together, outside agencies as well. His chief position was up, the contract, so the board, negotiated a new contract for him, and that's for a 4-year term.
okay. Thank you. All right, anyone have any questions or comments on that? Okay, no? All right, so on a motion to approve the Shane Farrell Police Chief's contract, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so information from officers and departments. Justice Court reports for January 2024, received $3,816. Police report,
Yes, for the month of January, there was 160 total calls, 37 moving summons, and 25 parking summons. There was 13 calls for service and 6 motor vehicle accidents. Thank you.
and one of the accidents was on Albany Post Road, and did not have a good outcome.
No.
Highway report.
I got it. The highway report for January 2024, household garbage 85 tons, bulk dumpsters 14 tons, 113 Christmas trees, a lot of TVs, for some reason in January. Highway department did a lot, especially with the cleanup of the snow, the past snowstorm we had. They did a wonderful job cleaning the streets. They got out, were proactive getting out early and salting the streets, pre-treating the streets, and then maintaining the streets. I want to thank them for a wonderful job with that as well. They also have been restoring the break room in the highway. Is that considered the break room?
Yeah.
In the highway garage, where we also use it as an art facility for our camp. And they changed paneling and redid the electric, and it came out nice. I did take a walk through it, and it came out nice. It'll be great for Jackie and her new lead into art this summer with our campers. It had a bunch of watermark outs for new construction, and let me see what we got here. Pizella replaced the hydrant on Broadway across from the Holtec. Holtec paid for the replacement because they broke the hydrant. Pizella also replaced the service line at 151 Cole Westchester Industrial Complex about installing a new meter. Also, a letter worked with National Metering and replaced 6-inch meter at Certainty and 2-inch meter at WG Holdings on 250 Tate. And that's all for the highway report.
Okay, and just to make an announcement, I don't know if everyone realizes, we do have a container behind the highway department headed towards just past the salt shed. I know some people use it, but if you ever need to get rid of a TV, a computer, or any electronics, that's where you would bring it. And I believe the county comes and picks that up. So great service to have that there. Okay, we are on our wastewater plant. So treated wastewater, almost 14 million gallons. That's a lot. Sludge removal, 149,000. There were lab reports submitted for the Westchester County Department of Health and the DEC. January 31st, Albany Post Road number 1 failure, pump removed and replaced with assistance from Allied Pollution Control, and pump number 1 sent out for repair. So, what do we have next? Building Department.
Okay, Peter was busy as usual. He issued 11 building permits in the month of January. This is the January report. He has 14 inspections that are still required for newly issued permits. He issued 10 certificates of occupancy. And Brian has been busy also. He issued the reminders for accessory apartment inspections and fire inspections. That's done annually, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And he's also continued to perform grease trap and oil water separator inspections. And there are no illegal apartments that have been reported.
That's good. Buchanan Engine.
That would be me. For the month of January, they had 0 structure fires, 7 EMS, 6 automatic alarms, 3 public assists, 3 gas emergencies, 6 mutual aid, and 3 motor vehicle accidents for a total of 28 alarms. Just like to, again, congratulate the 6 new members of Buchanan Engine Company. The fact that they are willing to put the hard work in and volunteer is great news. Also, I'd just like to say that kudos to the fire department for last night responding to a chimney fire on Tate Avenue. Got there with, I believe, Verplank in Montrose, VA, and what could have been a serious fire, they knocked down very, very quickly with no damage. So, and everybody was safe. So, thanks. Great job, guys.
Thank you. Zoning Board, January 10th minutes received and filed. Prosecutor's report, there is nothing. Attorney's report, Stephanie, what do you have for us this evening?
Just real briefly, the John Doe case, I think I had updated you guys a while back. The plaintiff has decided to file an appeal, so that will move forward and probably be a year from now before we get heard. On the Bleakley, sale of the Bleakley property, you guys had given the buyer until May to come in, and he called and he said happy to advise that he plans to come in April, and he's really very positive now about moving forward and building the project. So I'll remind you, we'll put him on in April if he confirms, but he was very excited about it. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. And Marcus, what do you have for us?
Just a couple of quick little things. I've been working with Mike. As we all know, we have one little speaker here for the sound system. So we found a company that actually is going to come starting tomorrow and replace the speakers in the roof, in the ceiling. So that way have better sound system and not have to count on one of those speakers that's on the floor, and hopefully have better reception in the room. Get that better. I'll be working with Mike to get that done, so that's working forward. Talk about working with the neighboring communities. The County of Westchester actually went to RFP for a cybersecurity software application for ransomware, viruses, and so on and so forth, which we have our own. But the RFP also allowed other municipalities to piggyback on it. I found out about it. I made a phone call. Our renewal was going to expire on Friday of last week. I called them on Monday. We were able to confirm and get everything rolling over to the county system. That system would have cost us $60,000, and we got it for free by working with the county.
Beautiful thing.
So,
Nice job.
Yeah, so that's a
Great
better
job.
security for the village, from ransomware and everything else. So I just want to put that out there, that it's been great working with the county, and came up to work with us very closely on that.
It's probably a more robust system, too. So
Oh, my
that's,
God,
that's great.
yes. Yeah, everybody I told that I got this on the IT side, they said, I can't believe that you got that application for free. So
That's
I got to
great.
thank the county for working with us on that. So that's going pretty well. As the board knows, we also have a lawsuit for the police department, which we have to deal with. We have legal representation on that, so we're working on that as well. And I might have two little quick items on the executive session if there's time, or we can wait for another day. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I understand you were on the call, the county call with George Latimer on Monday.
Yes, I was.
And so we are officially the smallest community out of 45 communities in Westchester County.
you heard that, yes.
I heard that, yes. And I think Ardsley is number 2.
Yes, that's
So.
correct.
I don't have too much this evening. I just wanted to, what I wanted to ask Marcus, there's a water leak on Craft Lane.
Yes.
Are they
They
taking care of
were
that?
going to do it today because of the rain. They're planning
okay.
to come back and get that. There's 2 water leaks they're actually waiting for the water to clear to work on.
Okay, good. good.
So water department is really on top of that. So anytime they find a leak, we try to correct it right away.
Mhm. I sent to the board the survey that the Recreation Committee had put together, and Sharon will be doing the newsletter. When would be the cutoff, Sharon?
Today.
Whoops.
No, Sharon.
Okay, so if the board could look at this, and if there's any additions or corrections, if you could either send it out to the whole board or get back to Sharon. One of the things I just see is that one of the questions, how familiar are you with the Buchanan Parks and Recreation Department? So I think I would take the department off and just say, how familiar are you with the Recreation, Buchanan Parks and Rec?
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah,
just
sure.
one comment regarding that survey. I think it would be beneficial if we had some type of scale where you put like 1 for most likely or
Mm-hmm.
Like a
2
1 to
for-
5.
Yeah, because to leave it open-ended, we may get, some crazy answers. So just a
Sometimes the
suggestion.
crazy answers are good.
Yeah. Leaving us a space for somebody to write in whatever they want,
Okay.
I think would be helpful.
Like,
but
okay.
that's my thoughts.
So like on a scale of 1 to 4, 1 to 5
Something
or
like that.
something?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's more, I think the
Okay.
Survey Monkey does 1 to 5.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, and that's something we have to look at if we can use SurveyMonkey.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Oh, they're
we-
not,
we use
okay.
it in my business. So.
All right. Well, maybe we can see if there's another survey company that can do that. What was the other thing? Oh, I was interviewed, it's called Reason.com, about Indian Point. So I will send it to the board if they feel it's appropriate to put it on our Facebook, but it was very informational about the nuclear industry and what happened to us at Indian Point. So I will forward that to the board, and you guys can decide if that should go on our Facebook. Anthony, what do you have for us?
Not much, just a reminder about our St. Patty's Day parade. It's very important to Steve and Dan that we all get out there and give us some support and get some volunteers out there because they are working very hard. It's going to be a wonderful event. I don't know about the weather, but we're going to work through it.
Today they said it was going to be good. It was,
Oh,
it was
good.
going to rain Saturday into Sunday morning. So they're saying the afternoon is supposed to be good. So,
So then, very good. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great event. I think, Steve, we're still looking for people to help on the streets
On the day of, yeah.
on the day of
Yep.
to help set up our, just get everybody where they need to be. So if anybody's available to help us, we would really appreciate it. I know they've worked very hard, and it's going to be a great event. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Could you share with TV Land and the audience here, like the details, like so,
Sure.
the lineup, what happens before, the parade route, and things like that, so people out in the audience can see.
Sure. So the parade is on Sunday. The step-off is at 2 p.m. Lineup is at 1:30 at Burke Court. Any cars that are in the parade will line up on Lake Street, and any of the fire apparatus will be on Bannon Avenue. It will go down through Tate Avenue, around the circle, and finish off at the pavilion.
Okay, good.
There'll be some refreshments for the kids at the pavilion, and we're hoping for good weather.
And the big kids too, there's
And-
refreshment?
What about the brunch?
And then 11 a.m. we'll have a brunch and presentation of the Grand Marshal and aides, where they will get their sash, and we will say a little bit of a background and a bio on each one. And we will be serving corned beef and cabbage being catered in.
Good, thank you.
And that's where the adult beverages.
On the house.
Correct.
Oh, you're going to be packed there. Bob, what do you have for us?
I really don't have too much stuff coming out and participate if you want. Also in the parade, right? We have a group that wants to come in. It's not too late.
Absolutely.
Okay, do that. And
Everybody's welcome.
one more thing, there is an election coming up March 19th. I'll put it out there, every vote counts, so, this is the time for, as residents, to speak up for how you feel. It's the only time you really have a real voice. I shouldn't say the only time. You can come here and speak whenever you want, but that's the one thing that counts. Every vote counts. You can ask me, I know.
There's a story behind that. You know what? I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know if it's. I smell something burning.
Yeah, it's the fireplace from.
It's
Oh.
definitely firewood.
Okay, just checking.
It's on every morning and every afternoon.
Oh, okay. I was like, Dan, what do you have for us?
Well, we already hit on the parade and the village election coming up, but I did attend the Zoom meeting for the bus patrol program through the Hendrick Hudson School District. So apparently this is a statewide type of program where they're going to be outfitting the buses. Actually, they're already outfitted with cameras. They're little cameras that are mounted on each side of the bus. And what they've been finding out is, like, just between this school year alone, there's been over 1,800 violations of people either just going around the school bus or, just not paying attention to traffic laws when it comes to the school buses. And what this program is going to do, and it's no cost to the taxpayers because it's taken care of through the state, and it's actually, it's going to be enforced through the county. They have some kind of software program that the county is going to have hooked up. And as these photos get taken of these people violating whatever kind of traffic law there is, as far as passing the school bus or, not, blocking a crosswalk. They will take a photo of the plate. It will go down to County Center's database, and then they will be issued a summons.
Wow, so the local departments don't have to deal with it. That's
Local
great.
departments will not have to
That's
deal with
great.
it. And again, this was, I guess it was really pushed by George Latimer and Richard Becker, I guess. They really pushed for this to get on board. And Liz did say all of our buses are currently outfitted.
Great, that's good. Okay.
And other than that, that's it. That's all I had.
All right, thank you. And Steve, what do you have for us?
Well, the parade's been the big focus recently. We're looking forward to Sunday. We're going to honor George Boyle as our Grand Marshal. He's the village historian. We also have Chucky McGuire, John Jackson, and Barbara LaFemina as aides. So hope everybody can come out on Sunday and have a great time. I believe one of the residents, I believe she's still here, she had a question in regard to Jupiter Power. I have, if you like, I know comments from the floor from the audience are available shortly. I have no problem giving kind of a little rundown. There is a company called Jupiter Power. They're a battery storage facility company out of Texas. They did come and give a presentation to the board regarding a possible location on Certainty's property back in, I believe it was May or June of 2022. At that time, the board said that wasn't a feasible location. They did come back to the board maybe a year later, asking to survey a piece of property within the village to see if there was any type of interest. They were allowed to survey that property. They did survey the property and give the village a copy of that, and nothing has transpired beyond that. So that's the story in regards to Jupiter Power. So if there's any other questions, there's be comments from the floor shortly. So that's all I have.
All right. So now we go out to comments from the floor. Anyone? Where did I put Marcus? What did you want to go into executive session for?
Personnel and contract negotiations.
Okay.
Hi, Tanya Drezik, Travis Avenue. With regards to the Jupiter battery storage facility, so why would you have them survey it and then nothing's been done all these months?
We didn't have them survey. They asked, they requested from the board if they could, and the board allowed them to survey it. And they actually provided us with a survey that could be useful later on.
Okay, so now what, I know that Griffin, right, was looking at them too or something?
I believe he owns the property next to the village property.
Okay, so if you had it surveyed, that was, I mean, because it was in the meeting in July, and now it's, so many months later, nothing's happening. They haven't contacted anybody? They haven't said anything?
No. We didn't have it.
No, I know you didn't. I know they did.
Right.
You allowed them access.
Yep.
Hmm?
Yeah. They haven't come back to us with anything further.
Really? Okay. And they don't donate money to the village at all, or the tri-village areas? They don't donate to anything?
I believe they've made donations in the past. I'm not aware of anything, but I know that they're an active corporation in the community.
Okay. In the community. Where do they have a place somewhere else in this community besides the one that they're looking at?
I'm not aware.
Okay, so, but they just donate to the villages?
I believe they made, I don't know of any donation they made to the village.
They haven't made any.
And I also know that they were looking
To
at
any
one time-
organizations in the village?
Not that I'm aware of. But I do know that they were looking at some property
Or
in
the
town of
tri-village,
Cortland.
I should say.
They were looking at some property in the town of Cortland, I believe, as well, by the quarry.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Okay, and, I mean, Griffin, isn't that the company, wasn't there an incident a couple of years ago
I'm not aware of anything.
with like some kind of environmental stuff?
I'm not aware of anything.
With the Griffin landscaping guy, no?
Not aware.
Or
In Buchanan?
I thought there was something going on with there, or maybe it was
Town of Cortland, maybe, not Buchanan.
it was town of Cortland it happened.
Yeah, town of Cortland.
And we're not at liberty to discuss that.
Oh, it's all right. I just remember seeing it in the news. That's all I'm asking. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank
You're
you. Any other comments from the floor?
Mayor, real quick. I know I have spoken about it. I just want to keep it on your radar, the entire board. Stephanie, you're probably aware of the federal OSHA change coming that will set new regulations for firefighting throughout the country. I'm hoping, if you haven't heard from NICOM, I hope that you will jump in with NICOM and get a position. The state associations, fire associations are writing the federal government now. We are in a comment period. That comment period ends May 8th. Then the OSHA will take it back, review the comments, and they can put it in. The Fire Districts Association, the state of New York, has dictated that it is going to be a financial burden on the fire districts across the country. So just put this in your mind, and please watch what's happening. We can't control it, but it may come down the pike here at the end of this year, and if it's in, we got to start following it. We don't follow federal OSHA, we will follow PESH. PESH will probably adopt federal OSHA. So as fire districts, municipal fire districts, it's going to impact everybody in the country, and it will be a financial burden on us. It's for firefighter safety. Can't really buck that, but it's going to cost some money. So keep it on your radar.
Thank you.
And Bob, if you could keep us, because you're on top of all that, if you could keep us in the loop, any updates that come along, that would be appreciated.
Sure. And there is some things coming down as my position on the Fire Advisory Board for the county. There is some discussion, which may help in the future here, of combining dispatch centers, and local police departments can join into that. The theory is to bring everybody under one roof in the county, fire, police, EMS, and some police departments may be looking at that to go down.
Yeah, because, you know, we have our dispatch from Peekskill PD.
So that's coming. I'll keep you posted.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Any other comments from the floor? Okay. I would like to make a motion to go into executive session for personnel and contract negotiations. Thank you, everyone. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. And as they say, have a great Buchanan Day.
Recording stopped.